Good evening, everybody. It's Saturday evening, and hope you're all doing okay. And just wanted to jump on real quick because the other day I had talked on my video, one of the last couple videos, about a friend of mine, Jill, who does a podcast, and it's called Clearly Seeing Death. Seeing Death Clearly. Seeing Death Clearly. I knew I was going to get that wrong, and I just looked it up. Seeing Death Clearly. Jill McLennan. And she does a podcast, obviously, on death. And she had me on her podcast a couple weeks ago, and primarily it was to talk about when I was doing nursing and particularly back in the 80s, at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, and what all that was like, because I was very, very involved in that, all of it. So that'll be on starting tomorrow, supposedly, I guess about noon on. Wherever you get your podcasts. I think it's on most places. She said that it may come on a little bit after that on YouTube, but I know, like, on Apple products, I go to the iPod app, and I guess there's Spotify, and you all know where you get your podcast. So if you're interested, look for that. And will be starting tomorrow, Sunday, the 22nd of September. Phew, September. Anyway, so I really wanted to, I said that I would come back on to make sure I gave you the name of the podcast, Seeing Death Clearly. Yeah. So I hope you can watch. It was interesting doing it because I'd never really talked about that time of my life with very many people. I was just too busy living it. And it was like, really and truly, like being in a war zone, and having to watch so many people I knew, friends of mine, people in the community who were getting sick. And initially nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew, and the fear was horrific. I can still remember it. And I remember where I was when I first heard about the new test for this thing called HIV. They had come up with the name. They knew it was they thought it was a sexually transmitted disease, or transmitted anyway by blood and blood products. And when they finally came up with the virus they thought was the cause, and then came up with a test. And I remember all of that stuff. And then, working as a nurse, taking care of my friends, taking care of all these people, mostly young men. Even I took care of some children. I remember one young boy was hemophiliac, and he got it through the factor VIII. And I remember when I worked in the ER, a woman came in. Still remember it so clearly. The paramedics, all gloved and goggled and everything up, bringing her in and dropping her and skedaddling out. And the doctor coming and standing at the doorway, yelling his orders in to us nurses, of what he wanted done without even examining her. It was horrendous back then. And it was scary. And it was just really scary. Because, you know, we all assumed we had it. We all assumed we had it and we're going to die. And as time went on, you know, and the test came about, it wasn't until the test, and it took me a while to take the test because I didn't want to know for sure that I was going to die. I already knew I was going to die, so I didn't want to know for sure I was going to die. And then taking the test and having to wait 2 weeks for the results and so on, and then finding out I was negative, and I couldn't believe my ears. But then that created a whole different aspect of life. So anyway, tomorrow I'll be talking about that on her show, and I'll be talking also about, you know, my life with my congenital heart defect and my life now nearing the end. So we talk about all of that, but like I said, the primary focus of it was about my experience working with people with HIV and AIDS. So I invite you to look at it. I found it interesting myself to talk about it and remember things that I'd forgotten and kind of relive a little bit of what it was like. And it was truly, truly, truly a very difficult time for a good more than 10 years, about 15 years of absolute horror. So I'm inviting you to watch. Oh my goodness, but it is important to remember these things and to know what it was like and to see where it's at now. And you hardly ever hear about it now, but people are still getting HIV unnecessarily and still not getting tested and still not getting treatment. So that means there are people still dying of HIV that absolutely don't need to die because of HIV, an early death. So tune in if you're interested. If you see this, I'm sure it's, it'll once they're up, it'll be up. So if you see this a month from now, a year from now, you can still be able to look it up. I'll be gone, but you can look it up then. So that's what I wanted to let you know. Today, I just went outside of the building. I was outside the front door of the building, and that's it. And then I sat in our garden for a few minutes, just to chit chat with some neighbors. And then I sat on our deck we have upstairs and did some reading for a while. And then I ate lunch and I took a 3-hour nap. And so I found that today, not going anywhere of any distance, not doing anything that really taxed me terribly. What I'm realizing is that the less I do, the better I feel. And when I say that, I mean, for example, I'm sitting here talking to you now, and if I get up to go to the bathroom and then maybe make a cup of tea, something as simple as that, I'm going to be out of breath and I'm going to be tired. And even though, I haven't done much today, it's going on 8 o'clock and I'm exhausted. I make myself stay up for another 2 hours, maybe even 3, so that when I go to bed, I'm not just laying there, hoping to fall asleep. Although I don't do that very much anymore, because if I just fall asleep when I fall asleep, not stress and worry about it. But anyway, that's what I wanted to come on and say. Tell you about the podcast. It's been an okay day. My wish is that it's been an okay day for you. And I'll talk to you later. Have a good evening, good night. I appreciate your listening. I really do. Good night.